Hi everyone, this screencast is going to cover plant cells. Please make sure you've got a pen and some paper before we start. Once you've got a pen and some paper, write down the LO that's on the screen, which is to understand the organelles in a typical plant cell and their role within the cell. Once you've written down that LO, have a go at these retrieval practice questions. These are retrieval from the animal cells screencast. So see if you can write down the functions of the following organelles, fill in the table, and then we will go through the answers. So pause the screencast and have a go. Okay, so the answers are now on the screen. Mark your answers in a different colour. Make sure you correct any that you got wrong. Okay, the reason I've chosen these questions as the retrieval practice for this session is that you will need to know the function of all of these organelles. These organelles that are found in animal cells are also found in plant cells, and they have the exact same function. This diagram that I put here is a typical plant cell. You can see these four organelles that I've highlighted in yellow are organelles that we've already met. The only one that isn't labelled that we have already met is the nucleus, which is here. Now, the ones that I've highlighted in green, they are not found in any animal cells. They are only found in plant cells. So we've got the cell wall, which is here. The cell wall is made of cellulose. Now, algae cells do have a cell wall, but it's not found in any animal cells. The permanent vacuole is here. The permanent vacuole is filled with cell sap. We will go through the structure and function of these organelles in a little bit more detail in a second. And the chloroplasts, finally, are these little green organelles here. These will be found mainly in plant cells that are found in the leaf or the stem of a plant. So your task for this screencast is exactly the same as in the animal cell screencast. As we go through the slides, which detail the structure and function of each organelle, I want you to be drawing your own diagram of a plant cell. You can start off with a kind of rectangular shape like this, and then fill it in as we go along. You do need to also make a note of the function of the organelles, because your next task that follows this one will require that information. If you need to view any of the slides for longer on the screencast, just pause the video. The first organelle we're going to look at is one that we've seen already in animal cells. It's the mitochondria. When you're given a diagram of a cell, again, you can identify the mitochondria by looking for the distinct folded shape. This is a diagram of a plant cell, and it looks the same. The mitochondria looks the same as the one in the animal cell. The mitochondria are the site of aerobic respiration, and energy is released. The next organelle we're going to look at is the cytoplasm. So the cytoplasm is a jelly-like fluid. It's made up of mainly water, fills the cells, surrounds the subcellular structures. Most chemical reactions take place in the cytoplasm, and this again is a plant cell. Next, we have the cell membrane. When you're given a diagram of a cell, the cell membrane will always be found surrounding the cytoplasm. The cell membrane controls the movement of substances into and out of the cell. So on this diagram here, the cell membrane is actually this black line here. Next up, we have the ribosomes. They will usually be shown as very small circular structures on a diagram of a cell. Ribosomes are the site of protein synthesis. So in other words, they make proteins. And here you can see the ribosomes are really very tiny. Next, we've got the nucleus. The nucleus of a cell wall will usually be represented in a cell diagram by a single larger circular structure. Here it's a little bit more oval shaped. The plural of nucleus is nuclei, and the nuclei contain the genetic information or DNA of an organism, and they control the activity of an individual cell. So those 5 organelles that we've just been through, we've already met them in animal cells, and they are also part of a plant cell. They have the exact same structure and function. This is the whole diagram. So I've been showing you little snippets of the diagram. You can see all of the different organelles. We're now going to carry on and go through the 3 organelles that we have not met yet that are only found in plant cells. First, we have the chloroplasts. These contain a green pigment called chlorophyll, and chlorophyll allows the plant to absorb light energy. And the chloroplasts also contain the enzymes that are needed for photosynthesis. So plants need to absorb that light energy for them to be able to photosynthesize. These are shown, the chloroplasts are shown as relatively large rounded organelles, and if you are looking at a colour diagram, they will always be shown in green. So chloroplasts are actually the site of photosynthesis. Next, we've got the cell wall. The cell wall of a plant is made of cellulose, and cellulose is a polymer of glucose, so it's a long chain of lots of glucose molecules all stuck together. It gives the cell extra support and defines the shape of the cell. The cell wall will always be shown to surround the cell membrane. So we said before that this black line represents the cell membrane. The outer green part represents the cell wall. The cell wall will always be on the outside. Lastly, we have the permanent vacuole. The permanent vacuole is usually found in the middle of a cell. Sometimes it can be off to the side. It's usually the largest organelle, so it's quite a lot bigger than everything else, even bigger than the nucleus. The permanent vacuole is filled with a solution called cell sap, and it's just a solution of sugars and salts dissolved in water. It's used for storage of some molecules, so some of those molecules are nutrients that the plant needs. The permanent vacuole also keeps the cell turgid, and what we mean by that is the permanent vacuole contains lots of water, so it keeps the cell rigid. It sort of puffs it out, and it keeps the shape of the cell. Your next task is to copy and complete this table. So you should now have your completed diagram of a plant cell. Now you need to copy and complete this table to make sure that you've got notes on the 3 organelles that are only found in plants. So you need to copy and complete the structure and the function. So the function is already done for you. You need to decide which organelle this function belongs to. So pause the video, have a go, and then we'll go through the answers. Okay, so we need a different colour pen to go through the answers. If you've got any of these wrong, please make sure you correct them, because this information is going to be vital for the next task. Okay, so the first one, we've got cell wall, made of cellulose, which is a polymer of glucose. It gives the cell extra support and defines the cell's shape. The second one is chloroplasts. These contain green chlorophyll pigments that allow the plant to absorb light energy, and also the enzymes that are needed for photosynthesis. The final one, a permanent vacuole, this contains cell sap, which is a solution of sugars and salts dissolved in water. It's used for the storage of certain materials, and it also helps to support the shape of the cell. It keeps it turgid. The first part of the question has been done for you. The labels are already here. Question 2 is on the screen now. This is question 3. This is question 4. This is question 5. This is question 6. And this is question 7. Okay, now we're going to go through the answers, so have a different coloured pen ready. If you need to see the slide for longer, then just pause the video as we go through them. So the answer to the first question, the chloroplast function is that it's a site of photosynthesis. Okay, it contains chlorophyll and the enzymes that are needed for photosynthesis to take place. So its function is that it's the site of photosynthesis. Question 2. The cell wall function is that it supports the cell and helps to define the shape of the cell. Question 3, the vacuole function is that it keeps the cell turgid. It's also used for the storage of molecules and it contains cell sap. Question 4. Both bacterial cell and plant cells contain ribosomes. What is the function of a ribosome? It makes proteins or synthesizes proteins. Question 5. A, we have the nucleus. It's a larger circular structure. And for B, we have the cell membrane. Remember, the cell membrane surrounds the cytoplasm. This outer line here would be the cell wall. The inner is the cell membrane. Structure C is a chloroplast. What is the function of a chloroplast? Photosynthesis. It's the site of photosynthesis. And the final question, if you get a question like this and it gives you an example answer, lay out your answer exactly as the question has done. So we could have has a vacuole, doesn't have a vacuole, or vacuole, no vacuole. Has a cell wall, doesn't have a cell wall. Make sure you mark all of your answers, make sure you do your corrections, and then you can use these notes for revision.